Hello, and welcome back to the Coop'd Up podcast. It is your host, Josiah. Thank you for everyone who is tuning in. It is my third episode. I can't believe we're still doing this. And I can't believe we're still doing this. Like, it isn't something that I want to be doing for you guys. But last week, we talked about how I was trying to put myself out there more and how I deleted the rest of my dating apps. And what I will say is that it has been quite interesting, to say the least, because I have no longer been receiving my daily dose of compliments that I receive from the men on these dating apps, okay? I was like eating those like my life depended on it, okay? I felt like what the Disney princess, there's a Disney princess, I think, where like the mom like had to like feed on people's compliments to stay youthful. I feel like that was me. And now that I don't have my dating apps, I feel as though that I am putting my energy into more things that I actually want to put my energy into, whether that is hanging out with new friends or, taking my dog out for more walks or just trying to like learn new things. I think that I have exhausted that, and I am just convinced that I'm going to find my person out there in the universe, and I'm just going to keep doing my thing. And I feel as though that is being translated into all of my motion that I've been doing on TikTok. I've been trying to post more on there. I'm trying to build the community for the podcast on TikTok. And I think honestly that's going quite well, I would say. I think that being more authentically me on TikTok is where I'm going to get my compliments to feed my soul and my ego, because I feel as though, having to be all of these different personas or alter egos for all of the different, I would say, communities that I feel a part of, whether it's Daddy J or Jaysha or, XOX, or not XO, but RIP Skull Poppy, like having all of these things and not just being truly authentic to myself. Those compliments they're real, I would say, but I don't feel as though that they are meaningful, right? So it's like, I remember the other day I was at the pool and I was hanging out with one of the moms at the pool, and her and I, well, it was me, her, and like one of her friends. They were taking pictures, doing their thing, and I was near them, and then we were all drinking, and I took off my shirt, and she was like, oh my God. And I was like, what? And she was like, I didn't know you had like abs like that. And I literally looked at her and I was like, girl, first of all, her and we see each other all the time in the gym. So I was like, the fact that you literally didn't think that I had abs, I was like, that's kind of insulting. But second of all, yeah, I was like, the amount of time and effort I put into the gym and my diet, well, I didn't say diet, but I guess like my eating habits, or like what I like to eat on all of my freaking salads, my healthy lifestyle, my green juices, all the things that I've been doing to have a good looking physique. I'm like, girl, I better look like this. And I was like, yeah, like, duh. But I feel like, obviously, like for me, that's something that I work so hard on and I take such pride in, that it's like, that is like an obvious compliment, right? It's like, when I post, I would say, thirst traps on Instagram, and it's like the people who comment and respond in my DMs or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, duh, like, obviously. But it's like, it's like, am I posting that really for the attention, or am I posting that for the appreciation of all the hard work I've put in? Who knows? But I am trying to, figure out a little bit more as to why I am doing that. But when she was like, yeah, I'm surprised, I was like, girl, bye. But then later on, when we were hanging out, we've all had our drinks and the drinks have been flowing and stuff like that, right? she goes to me, she was like, I really just feel like you're a ray of sunshine and like you're so nice and like all these things. And I was literally like, I was like, oh my God, stop. And I was like literally like shook by the compliment. And I was like, no, 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 stop. Like, don't say that. And she goes, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm being genuine. And it's like, why is it that we find it harder to accept more genuine compliments when it's related to us versus like the compliments that we get about our physical appearance or about like our, I don't know, like our accomplishments, right? So I'm trying to learn or trying to figure out how to be more accepting of more genuine compliments and be more appreciative of those instead of just receiving compliments about my physical appearance. Because I feel like that has led into also a lot of my relationships or like my situationships in itself. Because like I feel as though that I have always been the more attractive one in my situationships because of maybe how I dress or like I'm more physically active and it's like I'm always receiving compliments from them about how I look, but it's like I'm not getting what I actually need in the relationship. Like I remember one time when I was in Boston, I used to dye my hair blonde every summer, right? And it was a thing. And every summer I would go wild, blonde hair, do my thing. And I remember I was talking to this guy one time and he was like, I had my natural color hair and then I dyed my hair blonde and he was like, "Oh, I prefer your hair like natural." And I kept it blonde for like as long as I could. When we were talking, he said that he liked my beard. I cut my beard off like cuz I was like, "You're telling me that you like me for all of these physical attributes. So if I get rid of them," I was like, "Do you actually like me?" And I feel like that is, I was watching the Call Her Daddy Huda interview the other day, and she was talking about that with Jeremiah, where she was like saying how she felt like their relationship was toxic because she couldn't get him to actually do things. I didn't watch Love Island, but she couldn't get him to do actual things that she needed him to do versus like getting like the compliments and the affection and all of that. And so I feel as though is that I'm trying to work on that myself too and not feel more motivated to receive compliments and all of that based off of the projections that I'm putting out there and receive them more based off of like the actual person that I am and being more appreciative of the ones from the people who are closest to me. That being said, I will, still feed into the engagement because who doesn't love that? Like, that is to, like I said, build a brand, build yourself up, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? Because I even feel like being in the social media space and trying to post things, being in LA, you can definitely see how things are translated online and versus seeing them in person. And I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration. I know a lot of people who edit the fuck out of their photos, and it's like, I used to edit some of my photos, but it's like I was editing more so like maybe like facial features and like smoothing versus like editing body. And it's like you see that all the time where people edit the fuck out of themselves and then you see them in person and you're like, you don't look like that. And so I don't know, man. Like I'm trying to figure it all out and hopefully, lean more into, like I said, being more authentically me and taking it from there. And with being authentically myself, I have received, I want to talk about one thing is that the amount of compliments that I would say that I've received from starting this podcast, I would say my friends have definitely been the ones who have been giving me advice or telling me what they like about the podcast so far and kind of like supporting it. And I would say one thing is that, I was talking to one of my friends and she was saying how proud she was of me. And she was just like, you're just actually putting the content out there. And I said to her, I am low-key kind of struggling because one of the things is that I don't want to edit anything out, right? I want to be almost as authentic or as transparent as possible with what I'm doing or with what I'm saying. And I remember, one of the hardest things for me with starting this was is that I was like, if I do this or if I decide to start putting everything out there, it's like I either A, have to choose what I want to be out there, and then B, have to be able to deal with the consequences or the repercussions of that, right? So it's like, I know that not a lot of corporate jobs are going to want to have someone who has a podcast who is talking about their life and the nonsense or the shenanigans that goes on about it, or like even when it comes to like applying to jobs, right? Like all you have to do is type in my name, and I'm sure these are going to be, the podcast is going to be one of the first things that pop up. And so it's like, I'm like, how much do I really want to put out there? And then it's like, you know what? I have to do it and just accept what comes with it. And I think that, that is another reason as to why I've been putting a lot of my energy into the social media and the growing on TikTok, because I have seen like what it has been like. For example, I have been posting more talking videos, right, on TikTok, and people love to interact more with talking videos versus just like a soundbite video or like a skit. And so with the TikTok for the podcast, right, because it is now so authentically me, and I'm just posting whatever, like straight from my head onto the TikTok, just post it, send it, the engagement is more prevalent versus being more, I guess, calculated, or being like, oh, should I do this or should I not do this? How should I say this or not? How should I say this? But I also think it comes like, it's interesting because also at the same time, I'm a one man show, so I have to decide on whether or not if it's appropriate, or I don't have someone being like, actually don't do that. And I'm taking it all as I go, all as I can, and trying to figure it out from there. And that being said, I feel like that being said is going to be like my transitional phrase on here, because it's like I gotta figure out how to do better transitions or something, or like make it less awkward. But one of the things that I'm trying to start doing now is that, because this is being released on Mondays, right? And I just talked about not having corporate jobs. Quit your corporate jobs, work for yourself, quit your corporate jobs. But I hate a Monday, right? I hate working Mondays, and I don't work Mondays now. And so one of the things that I want to do for here is I posted it on the Coop'd Up podcast TikTok, and I'm going to read the post that I put, and then I want to read some of the comments, because I think this is going to be another one of a segment that I want to try out, because I feel like I'm not, like, the podcast isn't known enough yet for people to be sending in constant questions, and I don't know if people feel comfortable enough to be sending me questions. So I had a couple questions for the first 2 episodes, right? Now I'm like, there is no longevity until I get people actually sending things in. So I'm like, I can post on TikTok and people will eat that up. So this is what I posted on TikTok. I said, POV, I plan on calling out of work Monday. What are some unhinged excuses as to why you called out? I need something good, but not too unbelievable. I say this to say because I feel like everyone deserves a day to call out. And, having a good weekend and coming into work on a Monday sucks. But you know what? You can either call out on Monday or call out on that Tuesday. I'm more of like a call out that Monday person and just extend the weekend, cure the hangover, and keep it moving. But we're going to read some of the comments that the people have said. I'm going to read you the most liked comments that people have said. So one person said, just literally say you can't make it in today. Apologize for the last minute call out, and when people ask the next day, say personal matters. I feel like that's so standard or like so corporate 9 to 5, but I was like, I need something unhinged, girly. Like, so we're gonna keep going, and I'm gonna tell you another one. A lot of people said diarrhea or like bowel movements, which I was like, one person, I literally was like, I don't know. Okay, they said, I have anal glaucoma and can't see my I can't see my ass coming in tomorrow. My response to that one was, I don't even know how I would explain that in person. Anal glaucoma is crazy. A lot of other people said pink eye, which I was like, some of y'all need to get more creative. One girl was talking about how she used to faint, or like one time she was at work for so long she fainted, and so now she tells them that she doesn't feel good, and so they just let her go home. Another girl was talking about how her coworker just has like so many different excuses. She said one time that she is on the list for rescuing snakes. Like, rescuing a whole bunch of snakes is an insane excuse. I don't even know if that would be something that I would believe if someone told me that. But the girl says that it gets her out of, like, it got her out. And so if it worked for her, it can work for somebody else. But I want to start doing certain things like that and like giving you guys excuses as to why you want to get out of things. Because sometimes, like I said, it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And sometimes we just need an excuse to get out of something. And if you don't want to do it, sometimes you don't want to do it. But sometimes you don't have a good excuse as to why you can't get out of it. So I will be here to help you provide this. So I want to do that. I'm going to start doing this every Monday. I'll give you guys a little list of excuses as to why you can call out of work and just live your best authentic life. Because why not? I also need to sip because my mouth is dry because I had to like hit my pen a couple times before recording. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an amazing week. And besos. Bye. Love you.